This episode of Tim Kreitz Adventures is brought to you by Midland Power Sports. Come by and see our huge inventory of motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, and trailers. Visit us online at midlandpowersports.com. A few days ago, I was pleased to get another invitation from Midland Power Sports to come review another bike. This time, it was the brand new Kawasaki KLR650, the redesign, the Gen 3. And I'll be honest with you all, I had my hardest time ever reviewing a motorcycle in this episode. I have always had a healthy amount of respect for the KLR650, but at the same time, I've never really liked the bike much. I am an old school sport biker and I have never been into ADV or dual sport riding, so keep that in mind. That resulted in me being rather emotionally torn about the bike as I rode it, which you will see. One moment I'm calling it a fun motorcycle and in the next breath I'm calling it boring. The right side of my brain loved the KLR650, the left side of my brain hated it. Or maybe the other way around, hell, I don't know. Also, with this bike being a brand new floor model, I could not take it off-road and put it through its paces. Here are the specs for all you guys and gals who are interested in the numbers. As you can see here, Kawasaki did not exactly reinvent the wheel with the Generation 3 KLR. The most significant changes are, of course, fuel injection is now standard on all the new KLR 650 models, and the upper end models now have ABS, which apparently cannot be shut off from everything I've researched. So if you're a dedicated off-road rider, you may want to think twice before you buy an ABS model, because as we all know, ABS and dirt is a great way to crash. All of the bike's lighting is LED now, which is a very good thing. The instrumentation is very minimal. In fact, there's not even a tachometer, which you don't need on this bike. I don't know why everybody is freaking out about that. And some of the stuff that used to be plastic on the bike is now aluminum, if that matters to you. In essence, it's basically the same bike it has always been, and that's a good thing, I think. Let's take it for a ride. Well, here it is in the sunlight, the brand new 2022 KLR650, very much anticipated. I'm not really sure what to think about it. I'm not an ADV rider or a dual sport rider, and I haven't been for a very long time. I've never been an ADV rider. I've done some dual sport and quite a bit of dirt biking when I was younger, but this just isn't really my bag. However, I do have sort of a healthy respect historically for the KLR650 because I've been around them so much out here in West Texas with all my buddies who have had them over the years, all the different generations and iterations of them. I like that the bike is fuel injected now, but I'm really surprised that they kept that one banger engine. I'm very, very surprised by that. If you guys have been following the rumors and development of this bike, you'll have heard all the rumors about, oh, they're putting a 650 parallel twin in it, or it's getting an entirely new power plant, and that's not what it got. It is still about 650cc, one longer, but it's now fuel injected. And you know, I'm just speculating at this point, but I'm still imagining that this thing can't make more than 35 or maybe 40 crank horsepower, well, rear wheel horsepower. We'll be generous and say 35 or 40 rear wheel horsepower, and that's saying a lot. This is definitely the base model as far as I can tell. It's really big. I'm not entirely comfortable on it. I'm about 174 centimeters tall, or say 5'8.5 inches, 5 foot 8.5 inches. And so I'm not quite comfortable on this bike. I have to tiptoe when I come to a stop, and so I'm going to be really careful on this ride. I guess we should probably just go ahead and ride it. Why don't we just do that? Okay, let's go for a ride, shall we? And this will not be a comprehensive ride of this bike in its element, as I explained before. Good Lord, this thing is tall. It's too tall for me. Oh man, I just gave myself a cramp. Butt cramp, butt cramp, butt cramp. Please go away. Oh, that's better. Whew, hate it when that happens. Okay, so a couple of things right off the bat. This blinking check engine light, there's nothing wrong with the bike. This bike needs to be fully unlocked, and it needs to be programmed, and it needs to be checked for firmware updates. So that's why that is blinking. It's no big deal. Just ignore it. If you come to Midland Power Sports and want to buy this thing, they will take care of that in the final prep of the bike. Okay, cable clutch, cable throttle, very basic, very simple bike. Looks like non-adjustable suspension. Let's go see what's up with the KLR650. So not riding these types of bikes on a regular basis feels kind of strange to me. Oh my gosh, this thing has no power. It's better than a Grom, but wow. Yeah, you can tell this is maybe 35 horsepower to the ground, something like that. And it's a 5-speed. So, I mean, I want to say this should be a 6-speed by now. After all these years, after, God, when was the first KLR650? Like 1989 or 1990 or something like that, and it's still a 5-speed. But I say that it should be a 6-speed, but really, I don't know that you would glean any big advantage from it, because the bike is still a 35 or 40 horsepower one-lunger. That said, it's kind of neat. Let's see what standing up on it feels like. Standing up on it feels pretty good. You'll be doing a lot of that if you ride off-road on one of these, and so you need a comfortable standing position. The handlebars and the ergonomics are arranged just right, even for me being a little too short for this bike, that I'm very comfortable in the normal riding position. Okay, so that's all good. And then when I go to stand up, I'm equally comfortable. In fact, the handlebars, you probably can't see it, are at the right height just by happenstance. I would not have to make very much adjustment to this bike if I were to buy it. This bike comes in at under $7,000 for this base model. I think I want to say something like $6,800. Now you're going to have all the normal stuff: tax, title, license, freight, surcharges. Kawasaki imposes like $100 and something freight surcharge on the dealers, and I think the freight on this bike would probably, in Texas, if you bought it from a Texas dealership or if you bought it from Midland Power Sports, I'm just guessing here, $375 sounds about right to me for a bike this size and weight to Texas. So you're looking at, after tax, title, and license, man, you're close to $9,000. Well, probably close to $8,000 for this bike. You have to ask yourself, if $8,000 for a sort of mediocre performance adventure bike / mediocre performance dual sport bike that has been around for going on, gosh, 35 years now, if that's worth it, especially when you could get the previous generation of this bike off of Craigslist for a couple $1,000 right now. That's one thing about the KLR650 historically, is that these things do not hold hardly any value, especially if they're ridden hard. I was a bit disappointed that this is still a little one-lunger that is wheezing into the wind trying to make 70 miles an hour. There it goes. We made 70. But I'm telling you, this kind of works. It's a simple engine. It would be easy to work on, and I think that overall it would be just as robust as KLR650 engines past, and you could depend on it. You could probably ride over the entire United States on this motorcycle and you'd have a good time. Okay, so here's where I am on this. It's way too tall for me. I would lower it if I bought it, which I would not buy it because I have very little interest in riding off-road or in the dirt or on trails or that sort of thing. Although this would be useful for things like going down to, say, Big Bend National Park, a few hundred miles south of here, down around the Mexican border, which that's a bit of a dangerous proposition right now, riding down around the Mexican border, but it'd be perfect for that. Bike feels good. I could do big miles on this just because the seat is so comfortable.
the ergonomics are so comfortable, and it's actually doing a pretty darn good job of keeping the wind off of me. Now, I've read that you can adjust this, but it's manually adjustable. It's not automatic. In fact, it doesn't even have a lever. You have to literally pull out tools and take bolts loose and all of that and do it that way. But you can customize that windshield to, I assume, more or less wind protection, or maybe more flow through, something like that. I think it moves out and it moves up, whatever you want. So I have to keep remembering every time I stop on this thing that I can't touch the ground. So I'm just being extra careful here, because the last thing I want to do is obviously dump my buddy's brand new bike that he just got into his dealership. This is on road. It is an uninspiring, boring motorcycle. I'll tell you that right now. You guys remember the last review I did was on a 2022 Hayabusa, and I came down this road and went from 30 to almost 100 in the blink of an eye. That was exciting. So the last time I was on this road, I was taking a dopamine hit from a Hayabusa. On this one, I'm wondering if I'm ever going to get to that stop sign. And we eventually got here. So yeah, it's a dull motorcycle. You would have to do exciting things, or, you know, I don't want to say risky things. You would have to do adventurous things with it on the dirt to really have a good time on it, because this is kind of pointless. This is not a bike I would ever buy, but there are going to be a lot of people who really get this bike, like you understand it at a gut level, and it makes a lot of sense to you. Another thing that's a big problem for me about this motorcycle is how ugly it is. I'm sorry. And that just doesn't go for the Kawasaki KLR650. That goes for just about any adventure bike or dual sport bike, in my opinion. You know, you have to buy a motorcycle that you want to be seen on. And, you know, I'm kind of hoping nobody recognizes me while I'm riding this thing, because it is just, it's as ugly as homemade soap. And this whole genre of bikes is ugly. I don't care if it's a Ducati Multistrada, I don't care if it's a BMW. All the bikes in this category to me are just absolutely offensive to the eye. And that's another, I know it's so superficial and shallow and kind of poserish, but that's another one of the reasons why I would never have one of these unless I specifically was going to do some serious off-road trail riding, and I had a ranch, a big ranch, you know, that sort of thing. Or I don't know, I guess if I had some buddies that were into it and had some places we could go, I mean, yeah, I could do that. But this is just about as Grandpa Jones of a bike as you please. I cannot say enough about how comfortable this bike is and how fun it would be to ride it at like 60 miles an hour across the United States. On-road, off-road, doesn't matter. It would be extremely comfortable. And for being a one-banger, the engine is surprisingly smooth. I'm rather enjoying, man, I want to go around this dude so bad, but that guy's about to come head on. Let's see if I can get around him. Man, that's wide open throttle. Yeah, I know that's not what these bikes are for, but that's kind of frustrating to need power and you don't have it. But nice linear acceleration. Okay, so it did 80 and it was still pulling, so I bet it would do 90. That's impressive. That's actually surprising. I didn't think it would do much past 80, and it was still pulling at 80. Let's try that one more time. There's 80. Come on. Come on, give me 90, give me 90. There's 90, and it's starting to shimmy. So that wobble, yeah, oh, screw that. No, I'm not sure if that's just because this bike's not really made to go 90 miles an hour, or if it's the wind. We're in a really bad crosswind right now, or if we need some adjustment to the suspension, but that is very unpleasant. That is extremely unpleasant. You don't ever want to feel oscillation in the front end of a motorcycle. That started to feel like a Harley-Davidson death wobble right there. Wow. Holy cow. Okay. That sucked. I feel like I'm riding something other than a motorcycle, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm riding, like when I'm going straight, I feel like I'm on a four-wheeler or something, or some other kind of contraption. It just doesn't feel like a motorcycle looking up front. It's just not what I'm used to seeing. It has a really big front wheel. It has like a 17 on the back. I think the rear tire is a 130/80 17, and it has like a 20-inch or something, or maybe a 21 on the front. So that definitely has a very unusual feel for a sport bike rider, a guy who rides performance bikes most of the time. And the bike handles nicely and turns nicely, but it does kind of feel like it wants to fall over. And part of that's just that it's so tall, and I'm such a little dude. And it sounds like a sewing machine. I would say you should put, you know, a custom exhaust on one if you buy one, but don't do that. Don't put a custom exhaust on it. You can only make this engine sound worse by making it louder. An engine that sounds like a sewing machine, yeah, it should be as quiet as possible. In fact, if there were a system available that would make it even quieter than this, I would probably endorse it. I really would like to take it out in the dirt and just see what it feels like, but number one, it's too tall for me. I don't want to break it. I don't want to drop it. It's a brand new motorcycle. It now has 11 miles on it. And so we're just going to have to do it like this today. Okay, yeah, once you start getting to around 70 miles an hour, this starts to happen. Dude, I do not like this, man, one bit. I could not ride a motorcycle that did that. There's got to be a way to fix that. I can only assume that something's out of adjustment. Or it could just be that this bike's not made to go that fast. But man, gosh. And the worse the crosswind gets, the more it oscillates. Okay, let's get off the main part of the highway. Yeah, part of it is the wind. I'm figuring that out. So be careful of crosswinds on the new KLR650 because that's adding to the front end wobble. I'm astounded by the amount of front end wobble on a brand new motorcycle. Brand new tires. That's going to be my biggest complaint on this bike, is that front end oscillation. That's, in my opinion, I'm sorry guys, that's unacceptable. At any speed, if you design a motorcycle that'll do 90 miles an hour, it should do 90 miles an hour straight as an arrow. The shifting feels really good on this motorcycle. In fact, the transmission is really nice. The clutch and transmission relationship is really nice. Super smooth, nice. You get a nice click. You got a lot of travel in the gears, which is good since it's a 5-speed. Let me take one more little jaunt here so we can play with it just a little bit more. We'll go down this side street and then we'll bring it back to the dealership. Watch this idiot behind me. A lot of people out on motorcycles today. Okay, let's go up and we'll go around this roundabout up here. Come on, go. I actually like the throttle response considering the bike has no get up and go, but everything about that sort of control input relationship is really nice. You don't have to think too much about it. Nothing about it is irritating. There's no like right off idle hesitation. The fueling is really good. So this new fuel injection system that they put in this thing, hats off to Kawasaki. I'm impressed with it. Really impressed with it. Throttle feels nice. I just wish we were dealing with, 70 horsepower like a Tenere, or, or 80 or 90 horsepower like a BMW. That's what I wish. And, well, I was in the wrong lane. That's all right. We'll just go down here and bang a Yui. And we'll go back through the roundabout. Let's try a tight hairpin turn here. Oh yeah, that's real nice. That's real nice. Almost full lock. Oh yeah. So you could do some precision stuff on it off-road, I would imagine. It would be pretty easy to do that. Dodging rocks and dodging puddles and all the stuff that you off-road guys enjoy so often. And it banged through that little roundabout pretty nicely as well. Down we go on the one leg that'll reach the ground. Man, there are all kinds of people on motorcycles, and I'm riding this. Let's get into hiding. I'm telling you, that's a big part of it, and I know that's a character flaw on my part, so don't roast me in the comments too badly, but this thing is just really, really silly looking. It's damn silly looking. All right, a few final thoughts on the bike. Maybe I was a little too hard on this bike in this little ride and review. It's not even a proper review. It's not a comprehensive ride, that's for sure. You can't make a proper judgment on a motorcycle like this just riding it on the street. So again, don't roast me too hard in the comments. And I know you guys who are diehard KLR lovers for 20 or 30 years are gonna have a lot to say about this. And I get it, man. I totally get it. You get this bike and I don't. So it's all good, man. I'm just offering the non-ADV, non-dual sport riders, the street rider's opinion of this. And I've been riding motorcycles since 1978. Just so you know, I'm not a newbie by any stretch of the imagination. I've seen every iteration of this bike. I was a motorcycle safety instructor for a decade. So, I'm maybe a little bit set in my ways about what I like and how I like to ride motorcycles. The price compared to other bikes in this category is pretty good, but for what it is, I think it's overpriced. But I think every new bike is overpriced these days. So anyway, if you're interested in this bike, it's not going to hang around for long because these bikes have such a huge following that it's going to sell quickly. But if you're interested, contact Jason at Midland Power Sports and let him know you want to buy it, and he will hook you up. Yeah, whatever. It's a cool bike. It's just, it's just a little bit weird for old Timmy here. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bikes!